think about trapping the few remaining wolverines in the Chugach State Park?
Well, that was a controversy that happened the last couple of years, and the Board of Game kind of liberalized the seasons and areas where people could trap wolverines in Chugach State Park a couple of years ago. But we pointed out to them that there was really a biological problem with this, that there weren't that many up there. We did surveys, and they came around and actually changed that regulation, and so now there's not wolverine trapping in the park. So we're not worried that we're going to trap the wolverines out there. There's really only I don't know, a dozen or so wolverines in the park, so, or maybe 20.
It's such a treat to see them.
Yeah, and people have actually seen them in town a few times this year. A woman saw one out at Kincaid Park, surprisingly. So that's a long ways away from where wolverines are normally seen. Yeah.
Yes, it is, and it, you know, just like with the Denali buffer zone or these other zones that we have, you know, animals don't get to the edge of the park and like lift up a rope and go under it and know where they're at. I mean, this is all just their habitat. You weren't allowed to say bear for 6 months. Were you still allowed to say hole?
I was strongly discouraged not to use that in a professional capacity. Actually, my mom, after the big controversy, she actually saw it in the paper. She lives in Missouri, and she called me, she said, you know, I'm so sorry because I taught you how to say that. My dear old mother. So she took the blame for that one, actually.
That's classic. Like you were raised by wolves, kind of. What's more dangerous, a pack of wolves or a pack of teenage girls in a car?
Oh, no comment. People are almost generally
I'd say a pack of wolves
dangerous
in a car. What % of your time is in the field versus behind a desk?
I'm a desk server most of the time. I get out almost every day, but I'm behind the desk way more than I prefer. Computers, it's the computer age, you know.
Are you on call 24/7? What happens in the middle of the night or on a holiday?
I am on call 24/7. If I'm in town, and I haven't been on vacation for 8 years, except to go dip net fish once a year. I do that. But
what do you do with your carcasses, mister?
My carcasses, my fish carcasses? I pretty much eat the entire fish, yeah. No, I don't. We put the carcasses in a biodegradable, safe place in the wild, not at the end of a cul-de-sac.
Next to a bus stop.
Yeah, a school bus stop.
You know what? I want to beat whoever did that, and not in a nice way. What's your most memorable call?
Well, probably the animal with a cat's head under the bed that was eating the woman's pills. Yeah, that was a very strange call. It went on, and I wasn't encouraging it, but sometimes it's hard to break off these calls.
What did you do? Did you refer it to like the police or to emergency?
Well, she had a caretaker, and the caretaker had actually caught the cat under her bed at one point and transported it across town, but it had come back. So I don't know. It remained under her bed.
Apparently, the cat was addicted to her pills. Do you ever refer calls to the fire department, like cats in trees?
No, I don't. No, I don't do that, and I don't do cats in trees either. I haven't had any cat in tree calls, luckily.
I think that only happens in books.
Funny story though. The guy who had my job before me once told me that he had responded to a bear that was up in a tree, and he darted it. It was downtown, and he darted it, and when it fell out of the tree and hit the ground, it regurgitated a cat. So cats are not always safe in trees.
Why did the bear climb the tree? Lunch. No, that's a great idea though. If there's a cat in the tree problem, you call a bear.
Send the bear up, yeah.
There's your lesson. Rick, what's the closest you come to opening up a can of whoop-ass on an irresponsible human?
Oh, I'm not violent. I don't do it.
He's all talk.
No. I do carry a can of pepper spray with me, and it's not always for the bears. But I haven't used it on anybody. It's just there.
I have chased a moose away from my flowers. I know this is dangerous. How can I do it more safely? Firecrackers? Really?
No, I wouldn't. You know, in these dry conditions, I wouldn't use firecrackers. The moose will almost always finish with the flowers and wipe its lips and move on safely. That's usually don't want to agitate the moose.
I've used a broom. Just saying. How many wolves are in the Anchorage Bowl?
If that includes Fort Richardson and Elmendorf, 8 or 10.
8 or 10 wolves?
Yes.
Wow, that's not very many. The next question is, do you think there's a wolf problem in the Anchorage Bowl?
I don't think it's a wolf problem, no. They do eat pets sometimes, and they do occasionally kind of have a standoff with a person, but it hasn't been a real problem yet. It could be one, so we're careful with that.
So right now, and we're seeing all these little red, beautiful moose calves. They're really cute.
And the moms are really dangerous.
And the moms are really, really dangerous.
This is the worst time of year.
This is, and it is, and if you get between a cow and calf,
whether you want to or not.
Whether it can be completely unintentional. What is the best thing for people to do other than kiss their hiney goodbye?
Don't do it if you can help it. But running is okay from a moose because it's always defensive. They're not going to chase you like a dog or a bear might.
Get a tree between you.
Tree is good. You can run around a tree faster than a moose can. Yep. And if worst comes to worst, and they actually do catch up to you, falling down and protecting your head, people are amazingly resilient, and moose have done little war dances on people, and they've survived perfectly well. Bruises, sometimes a broken bone. But,
well, and we've had different incidents of people being kicked to death.
2 people in the Anchorage Bowl have been
a woman
killed,
checking on her dogs.
Yep, in the middle of the night. Yeah.
And then the man at the university after a moose had been harassed with snowballs.
Well, that's the story, and I think the moose might have been a little bit agitated, but in the videos that we've seen of that, the man never should have been that close to the moose in the first place. She had a calf, and he was within, I don't know, 5 or 10 feet trying to go into a door, and she's back in a corner. Not a good situation. And I don't think either he couldn't see very well, or
he was an older man,
or he just didn't understand. That was a very dangerous situation. That was walking into a fire holding a can of gasoline. That was not pretty.
And what about bears right now? What is the best thing? I know people are up on Campbell Creek. There are different places up on the hillside hiking. Kincaid, we've got brown bears in Kincaid and black bears. So what is the best thing if people are in a situation, and bears are just like people, they're not all the same, but what's your best advice for people?
Well, usually it's the bear's behavior that lets you know what you want to do, and there's a great video called "Staying Safe in Bear Country." It's available at some of the local outlets. REI, I think, has it, and get that and watch it because it's excellent advice. But generally speaking, it's the behavior that's the main thing. But with black bears, usually they're not really a threat to people unless they start following you or doing odd things. The brown bears are so dangerous because they don't like to be surprised, and we surprise them. We're riding fast on a bike, or jogging fast, and we come around a corner and there's a sow with cubs, or there's a bear defending a dead moose or something, and you get in these situations where you're surprising a brown bear, and that's never a good thing. So the video shows all the different things you should do, but generally speaking, you need to stop, read what the bear's body language is, and that tells you some cues, and then increase your distance if you can. If the bear's obviously charging you, then you want to stand your ground, and if the bear knocks you down in a defensive charge like that with a cub or something, then that's when you play dead. But you shouldn't play dead if a bear is actually actively stalking you. And there's a big difference between the bear's body language and the sounds it makes and things like that. So you can tell, but the video is a real good help for that. It's a little bit complex, but if you walk through it, and there's good literature on the internet from Fish and Game website, and also we've got brochures and various things, and you walk through that thing a few times with and look at it, and then when you're out in the wild, you actually practice. It's like you're walking along a stream, you think, what would I do if a brown bear came running out of the woods right now and stopped right here? What would I do? And if you run through that scenario through your mind in different situations and stuff, then when it really happens, you won't be thinking, what did my 5th grade teacher tell me about bear safety? I'm
in the middle of a Depends commercial, which is they're scary. They can be scary.
Sure.
I go out of my way to spend a lot of time in bear country over at Brooks Camp and where I grew up on a set-net site. And I just think, they're so complicated for being these just gigantic, wonderful animals. But the adolescent bears that are all testosterone, there's sort of like this teenager thing happening.
Or they're very curious.
Or they're curious, and what's the difference between a false charge and a real one? And frankly, at the time, you don't know.
It looks the same. Yeah.
It looks the same, and it's like all brown coming at you, which is really scary.
Yeah, but you do the same thing, depending whether it's false charge or not. I mean, that's the beauty of this method of reading the bear's body language, because you can tell by looking at the bear in a microsecond what it's going to do. They're very predictable. Bears are very predictable, unlike what most people say. People are much less predictable than bears are. But bears are very predictable, and you can pretty much read what they're going to do by their body language and the noises they make and stuff. So it's good to watch that video.
And it seems to me that people are predictable enough that if they're packing around a gun, they're looking for a reason to use it, and they're going to be less likely to, well, stop and look at those signals and really try to figure it out. They're going to go for their first option.
People get a little braver with a weapon, and with pepper spray, for a matter of fact. I mean, if you've got pepper spray on you, people tend to take a little more chances.
Does it work?
Pepper spray works, yeah.
Does it really? Because
Yeah.
I figured it just made Cajun people. Like, just
You don't
spice it up a little
Yeah,
bit.
you don't put it on yourself before the encounter. That's what the mosquito repellent's
I'll
for.
be like, would you like a Tums with that spicy person, hiker? Thanks so much for coming in, and hopefully
welcome.
we don't have to call you for any of, cat on pill issues.
Yeah, no more calls this summer.
But you can say bear now.
I can say bear.
Say it.
Bear.
Right on. All right, we'll be back next week with more Up North.